Emily clutched her son tightly, her voice trembling as she whispered, "It's okay, Jacob, I've got you." The sharp echo of her scream still lingered in the air, mixing with the fading slam of the door. Michael's face had been twisted with rage, his eyes burning with betrayal as he stormed out. Emily's chest tightened with panic, her heart thundering as if it might break free. Jacob buried his face in her shoulder, his small body trembling against hers. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but threatening, like a warning she could not ignore. She felt the weight of everything crashing down at once, the fragile life she had fought so hard to build now in pieces. Emily thought, this night has changed everything. She kissed Jacob's hair and murmured, "I won't let anyone take you from me." Emily sat in the silence that followed, the apartment now echoing with Jacob's soft sniffles. She whispered, "Shit's over, baby. I'm here," though the words felt hollow. The thrum of the sirens grew closer, and she wondered if someone had called the police. Her chest rose and fell with uneven breaths, replaying Michael's glare in her mind. She could still feel the weight of his anger, the way his voice cut through her resolve earlier that night. Jacob looked up with red eyes, asking, "Is Daddy coming back?" The question sliced through her like glass. Emily held him tighter, her voice steadying as she said, "No one is going to hurt us, I promise." In the stillness, she realized the storm had only just begun. The knock on the door jolted Emily upright, her pulse racing. Jacob's eyes widened, and he clung to her sleeve. "It's okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure she believed it. She approached the door slowly, every creak of the floorboards like thunder. Through the peephole, flashing red and blue lights glared back at her. A deep voice called, "Police, ma'am. We need to check inside." Emily froze, torn between fear and relief. She opened the door hesitantly, her voice breaking as she said, "Please, just don't scare him." Jacob hid behind her, peeking out with tear-streaked cheeks. The officers stepped inside, their faces unreadable, as the night shifted from chaos to official scrutiny. Inside, the officers scanned the room, their radios crackling softly. Emily's voice wavered. "It was just an argument. He left." One officer studied her face, suspicion in his eyes, while the other knelt to Jacob's level, asking gently, "Are you okay, buddy?" Jacob clung tighter to Emily, whispering, "I want him gone." Emily stroked his hair, her mind racing with the weight of every word. The officers exchanged a look, and one wrote notes, his pen scratching across the paper like judgment itself. Emily's chest ached with the thought that everything she said might be twisted against her later. She whispered, almost to herself, "All I want is for him to feel safe." When the officers left, Emily collapsed onto the couch, her body shaking. Jacob curled against her side, whispering, "Don't let him take me." She hugged him tighter, whispering back, "He won't, I swear." Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. The night felt endless, every sound in the apartment magnified into a threat. She glanced at the door, its silence heavy, as if waiting for Michael's return. Emily kissed Jacob's forehead and whispered, "We'll get through this, one breath at a time." In her heart, she knew the fight ahead would test every ounce of strength she had, but for Jacob's sake, she could not falter. The morning light crept through the blinds, but Emily felt no warmth. She sat at the small kitchen table, her coffee untouched, staring at the silence. Jacob pushed cereal around his bowl, his voice timid as he asked, "Will Daddy come back tonight?" Emily's throat tightened as she forced a smile. "No, sweetheart, it's just us now." She wanted to believe it, but Michael's threats from the night before echoed like chains in her mind. Her phone buzzed, and dread filled her chest. The message was short, cold and sharp, "You'll never win." Emily's stomach turned, her breath uneven as she glanced at Jacob, who watched her with quiet fear. She whispered to herself, "I won't let him destroy us," though her voice trembled with doubt. At work, Emily typed furiously at her desk, but her hands trembled. The hum of the office felt suffocating. Her boss, Margaret, a stern woman with sharp glasses, appeared by her side. "Emily, we need to talk," she said flatly. Emily nodded, her chest heavy. In the conference room, Margaret's tone was clipped. Your performance has slipped, and the board is concerned. Emily's voice cracked as she said, I'm doing my best. Things are difficult at home. Margaret sighed, unsympathetic. Personal issues can't interfere here. The words stung like knives. Emily clenched her fists beneath the table, silent rage coursing through her. She thought of Jacob and silently vowed, I can't lose this job too. That evening, Emily sat with her best friend Sarah on the worn couch. Sarah poured tea, her eyes warm with concern. You can't keep holding this alone, Em, she said gently. Emily's voice cracked. Michael is going to drag me through hell. I can't afford lawyers. I can't. Her words broke and tears slid down her cheeks. Sarah clasped her hand firmly. You've carried so much. Let me help. Emily shook her head. I don't want you to suffer because of me. Sarah leaned forward, determined. I'd rather stand with you in the storm than watch you drown. Emily's breath hitched, her heart aching with gratitude, yet fear still whispered that trusting anyone might cost her everything. Late at night, Emily tucked Jacob into bed, his small face pale with exhaustion. Will you stay right here? He whispered. Emily kissed his forehead. Always, sweetheart, always. She lingered at the doorway, watching him breathe steadily, the innocence of sleep shielding him from the chaos outside. In the dim hallway, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Michael. I'll take him from you. Emily's hands shook as the screen blurred with her tears. Rage and fear tangled inside her chest. She whispered into the silence, over my dead body. For a moment, she leaned against the wall, her strength drained. But then she straightened, her resolve like steel. The next morning, Emily walked Jacob to school. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching beneath their shoes. Jacob squeezed her hand, asking softly, You'll be here when I'm done, right? Emily knelt, brushing his hair back. Always, she whispered, forcing a smile. At the gate, she watched him join his classmates, his small frame disappearing among them. Her chest ached as she spotted Michael's car idling across the street, his eyes hidden behind tinted glass. Emily's breath caught, her body frozen with dread. She muttered under her breath, Stay away from him. The engine roared and the car pulled off, leaving her shaken, her world spinning with the unspoken threat. Emily sat stiffly across from her lawyer, Daniel, the stale office air pressing down like a weight. He flipped through papers, his tone firm. Michael has filed for custody. This won't be easy. Her heart pounded, the words slashing through her last fragments of calm. She gripped the edge of the chair, whispering, He can't take Jacob from me. Daniel adjusted his glasses, eyes sharp with caution. He'll use everything, your finances, your hours at work, even last night's police report. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. The silence stretched before she rasped, Then we fight harder. Daniel studied her, then nodded slowly, his voice steady. If you're ready for war, so am I. At the courthouse steps, Emily's stomach twisted as she spotted Michael, waiting with his attorney. His smirk cut through her resolve like a knife. Sarah stood beside Emily, whispering, Don't look at him, look ahead. Emily nodded, her hands trembling as she clutched the folder Daniel had given her. Michael's lawyer leaned in, his tone dripping with disdain. This won't go well for you. Michael's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. Emily swallowed her fear, raising her chin. I'm not afraid of you, she said, though her chest ached with doubt. Sarah squeezed her arm, whispering, You've survived worse, remember that. The heavy courthouse doors loomed, the trial's shadow swallowing her whole. Inside the courtroom, Emily sat at the plaintiff's table, her palms clammy against the polished wood. The judge, stern and unreadable, adjusted his glasses as the proceedings began. Michael's attorney rose, voice sharp. Your Honor, the mother has shown instability and poor judgment. Emily's pulse raced, her breath shallow. Daniel leaned close, whispering, Stay calm, don't let him rattle you. Michael sat across from her, gaze cold, lips curled into a subtle sneer. Emily fought to steady herself, whispering, He's not taking Jacob, as though the words alone could build armor. The gavel's crack silenced the room, and the battle officially began. The social worker, Linda, stepped forward, her voice steady but impersonal. "The child has shown signs of emotional distress," she reported. Emily's stomach lurched as her gaze flicked to Jacob, seated quietly with an aide. His small hands fidgeted in his lap, his eyes darting nervously. Michael smirked faintly, the picture of control. Emily clenched her fists, whispering to Daniel, "He's twisting everything." Daniel placed a calming hand on her arm. "We'll counter it. Breathe." Emily bit back tears, forcing her chin up. "He's my son," she murmured fiercely. The judge scribbled notes, every stroke sounding like a verdict carved in stone. As court adjourned, Emily stepped into the hallway, her legs weak. Sarah rushed to her side, whispering, "You held it together." Emily shook her head, tears stinging. "They see me as broken, and Michael knows it." Michael passed by, his voice low but sharp. "This is only the beginning." His words pierced her, and fear clawed at her chest. Sarah stood firm, glaring at him. "You won't break her," she snapped. Emily closed her eyes, gathering what strength remained. She whispered to herself, "I have to be stronger than this," though exhaustion weighed every syllable. The long corridor stretched ahead, the fight far from over. Emily sat at her desk when whispers filled the office. A co-worker avoided her gaze, sliding a tabloid across the table. On the cover, a headline screamed, "Mother, unfit for custody." Her hands trembled as she read lies about her personal life, words dripping with venom. Her chest tightened, breath shallow. Margaret, her boss, appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "This kind of attention is bad for the firm," she said coldly. Emily's voice cracked. "These are lies. Michael planted this." Margaret shook her head. "Perception matters more than truth." Emily stared at the page, her face flushed with shame and fury. She thought bitterly, "He's poisoning every part of my life." That night, Emily stood before the bathroom mirror, gripping the sink. Her reflection looked foreign, pale skin, swollen eyes, lips trembling. Jacob knocked softly. "Mom? Ma—" She forced her voice steady. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Go to bed." His footsteps lingered before fading away. Emily whispered to the mirror, "You can't fall apart now." Her hands shook as she splashed cold water on her face, the sting grounding her. Shadows crawled along the tiles, her fear whispering louder than her resolve. She pressed her forehead to the glass, muttering, "I won't let him win," though the words quivered with exhaustion. The woman staring back looked fragile, yet somewhere deep, she searched for strength. In the schoolyard the next morning, Emily froze as two mothers whispered near the gate, their eyes flicking toward her. One muttered, "That's her. The one from the paper." Heat surged through Emily's chest as she gripped Jacob's hand tighter. Jacob looked up, confused. "Why are they staring?" Her voice caught. "They don't know us, Jacob." Michael leaned against his car nearby, arms folded, watching with smug satisfaction. Emily's blood boiled, but she kept walking, chin high, hand clenched around Jacob's. Her whisper was more to herself than to him. "He wants to shame me into silence, but I won't give him that power." That evening, Sarah stormed into Emily's apartment, her voice fierce. "He's destroying you in public, and you're letting him win." Emily sat on the couch, shoulders slumped. "I'm so tired, Sarah. Every day feels like a fight I can't win." Sarah knelt in front of her, gripping her hands. "You're stronger than this, Em. Don't let him define you." Emily's eyes welled with tears as Jacob peeked from his bedroom doorway, his small voice carrying, "Mom, please don't cry." Emily forced a shaky smile, reaching for him. "I'm okay, honey." Sarah's gaze hardened with fire. "Then let's fight back, together." Emily swallowed, torn between fear and hope, her voice whispering, "Maybe I still can." Later that night, after Jacob was asleep, Emily sat at the kitchen table with Sarah. A folder of documents lay open, evidence, receipts, emails. Sarah's tone was sharp. "We can prove he's lying. Look at these records." Emily traced the papers with trembling fingers. If I do this, he'll come at me harder. Sarah leaned closer, her eyes unwavering. Then we meet him blow for blow. Emily's heart pounded, the weight of fear and determination colliding. She whispered, I have to protect Jacob, no matter what it costs. Sarah nodded, her voice firm. Then this is where we begin. In that moment, resolve ignited within Emily like a flame refusing to die. Emily sat alone in her apartment, stacks of papers spread across the table, exhaustion clouding her mind. A knock startled her, sharp and deliberate. She opened the door cautiously, only to freeze at the sight of a woman she had not seen in years. Her Aunt Margaret stood in the hallway, her expression unreadable. Emily whispered, Why are you here? Margaret's voice was steady, tinged with regret. Because it's time I made things right. Emily's breath caught, memories of abandonment flooding back. She wanted to slam the door, but Jacob's voice called from behind. Who is it, Mom? Emily turned, her heart pounding, torn between the past that betrayed her and the present she was desperate to protect. They sat across from each other, silence thick between them. Emily's voice finally broke. You left us when we needed you most. Margaret lowered her eyes, her voice soft. I know, and I've carried that guilt every day. Emily's hands shook as she clenched her cup of tea, fury and longing colliding in her chest. Why now? Why come back when my world is collapsing? Margaret leaned forward, eyes intense. Because Michael is dangerous, and I have proof of things you don't know. Emily's breath hitched, her chest tightening. Trust felt impossible, yet hope flickered faintly. Her whisper was sharp. If you're lying, I'll never forgive you. Margaret met her gaze steadily. Then I'll prove myself. Margaret spread a folder across the table, papers and photographs spilling out. He's been hiding assets, making under-the-table deals, she explained. Emily's eyes widened, scanning receipts and emails with shaking hands. Anger burned through her exhaustion. He's been living like this while Jacob and I scraped by. Margaret's voice was calm but firm. This evidence can crush his credibility in court. Emily leaned back, tears pricking her eyes. I don't know if I can face more betrayal, even from help. Margaret's hand reached across the table, tentative. Then don't trust me, trust the truth in front of you. Emily inhaled sharply, her resolve trembling but beginning to strengthen. Later that night, Sarah arrived, shocked to see Margaret sitting in Emily's living room. Her voice was sharp. What is she doing here? Emily raised a hand, weary but calm. She has information that could change everything. Sarah's gaze hardened, arms crossed. And you're just going to trust her now? Emily's voice cracked but held steady. I don't know what else to do. Margaret interjected, voice even. You don't have to trust me, you just need to use what I've brought. Sarah looked between them, torn. Finally she sighed. If this helps protect Jacob, then fine. But I'll be watching every step. Emily whispered, That's all I need. As Jacob slept in his room, Emily stood at the window, city lights flickering in the distance. Margaret's words replayed in her head. You have the power to end this war. Sarah joined her silently, placing a hand on her shoulder. Emily whispered, Every part of me wants to hate her, but I can't ignore what she's given me. Sarah nodded softly. You don't have to forgive to fight smarter. Emily's reflection in the glass looked older, worn, but a fire flickered faintly in her eyes. She whispered to herself, This changes everything. Behind her, Margaret sat quietly, her expression unreadable, as though she carried secrets too heavy to fully reveal. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Emily sat rigid at her table, Daniel whispering, This is where we take control. Across the room, Michael smirked, his lawyer shuffling papers with confidence. The judge entered, gavel striking sharply. Court is in session. Emily's stomach churned as Margaret, seated quietly behind her, gave a subtle nod. Her breath steadied, though fear pressed at the edges. Michael's attorney began with venom. Your Honor, this woman cannot provide stability. Emily closed her eyes briefly, whispering to herself, For Jacob. When she opened them again, her resolve was firm, the weight of the fight burning into her bones. Michael took the stand, his voice steady, painting himself as the perfect father. "I only want what's best for Jacob," he said with feigned sincerity. Emily's hands gripped the table until her knuckles whitened. She could feel every lie sinking like poison. Daniel whispered, "Wait, let him hang himself." The lawyer prompted, "And your financial situation?" Michael's jaw tightened, but he smiled faintly. "I've always supported them." Emily's gaze flicked toward Margaret, who clutched the folder of evidence. The judge scribbled notes, his face unreadable. Emily muttered under her breath, not for long, as fury simmered beneath her calm exterior. Daniel stood, voice sharp as he presented the evidence. "Your Honor, we have documents showing Mr. Carter concealed income and assets." He handed the papers to the bailiff, who delivered them to the judge. Michael's composure cracked, his face flushing with anger. "That's not true," he barked. The courtroom buzzed, whispers rising like a wave. Emily's heart pounded as Margaret locked eyes with her, a silent message. "This is your moment." The judge rapped the gavel. "Order." Michael's lawyer leaned in, whispering furiously, but the damage was visible. Emily exhaled slowly, whispering, "The truth is finally here." Emily took the stand, her palms damp, her throat dry. Daniel's voice was calm. "Tell us why you're fighting for custody." Emily's gaze shifted to Jacob, seated with the aide, his wide eyes watching her. She swallowed hard, then spoke. "Because he is my world. Every sacrifice I've made, every long night, every tear, it was for him. I won't let him be used as a pawn." Her voice cracked but steadied as she continued. "I am not perfect, but I will never stop fighting for my son's safety and happiness." The courtroom was silent. Even Michael leaned back, his smirk gone. Jacob's small smile gave her strength to finish. The final gavel struck, echoing like thunder. "Court will reconvene tomorrow for closing arguments," the judge declared. Emily stepped down from the stand, her knees weak, but her spirit unbroken. Sarah rushed to her side, whispering, "You were brilliant." Emily exhaled, her body trembling from the weight of everything. Michael brushed past, muttering low, "This isn't over." She froze, fury sparking, but chose silence. Margaret placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, whispering, "You've done what mattered, you spoke your truth." Emily nodded faintly, her whisper only for herself, "Tomorrow decides everything." The tension clung to her skin, but for the first time, hope flickered stronger than fear. The courtroom was silent, as the judge cleared his throat, papers rustling. Emily's heart pounded so loudly she thought the room could hear it. Michael leaned forward, his eyes sharp, waiting. The judge's voice rang steady. "After reviewing all evidence, custody will be awarded to the mother." "Indeed, Dash." Emily gasped softly, tears filling her eyes. Michael slammed his fist against the table, his lawyer restraining him with a hand. Jacob, seated in the back, broke into a smile so pure it pierced Emily's chest. She covered her face with her hands, whispering, "Thank you." The judge's gavel struck, the sound final and absolute, echoing like freedom. In the courthouse hallway, Emily clutched Jacob in her arms, his small hands gripping her tightly. "We did it, Mom," he whispered, his voice full of innocence and joy. Emily kissed his hair, whispering, "No, sweetheart, you did it, you gave me strength." Sarah rushed forward, wrapping them both in an embrace, her tears spilling freely. Margaret stood at a distance, her face softened with quiet pride, yet shadows of regret lingered in her eyes. Michael stormed past with his lawyer, his glare icy, but Emily didn't flinch. She whispered to Jacob, "He can't touch us anymore," her voice steady, her soul finally free of fear's grip. That evening, Emily returned home with Jacob, the apartment quiet and calm. She dropped her keys on the counter, the sound strangely final, like closing a chapter. Jacob ran to his room, pulling out his favorite toy, laughter echoing through the walls. Emily leaned against the doorway, smiling faintly, her body still trembling from the day. She whispered, "This is what peace feels like." Margaret entered behind her, hesitant. I know I can't erase the past, but I want to help rebuild. Emily turned, eyes cautious but softened. One step at a time, she replied. Margaret nodded, the silence heavy but hopeful. Later that night, Emily sat at the kitchen table with Sarah, the papers of the custody battle scattered like remnants of war. Sarah whispered, "It's over, you won." Emily shook her head gently. "I didn't win, we survived." She traced the rim of her mug, her face pensive. "The scars will stay, but Jacob is safe, that's all that matters." Sarah leaned closer, voice tender. "You're stronger than you know, Em." Emily smiled faintly, eyes glassy. "I never wanted to be strong. I just wanted him to have a childhood." The clock ticked softly, time finally moving forward again. In the stillness of night, Emily stood by Jacob's bedroom door, her hand resting gently on the frame. She watched him sleep, his breath steady, his small chest rising and falling. The world outside was uncertain, but this room held peace. She whispered, "We're stronger now, and we'll never stop fighting." Quietly she slipped inside, sitting on the edge of his bed. She brushed a hand through his hair, a real smile breaking across her face for the first time in years. She laid beside him, whispering one last vow into the darkness. "No matter what comes, we'll face it together."